One, two, one, two. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Hi, Ted Coley.
Hi, Fred.
Are you having a fabulous day today, Ted Coley?
Yeah, it's so-so.
Ted Coley, I am miserable. My head feels like it's going to explode. Last week, I had the cold or flu, and of course, I got rid of that, and I feel much better. But what happened last year when I had the cold or flu, Ted Coley?
You started having throat spasms.
Throat spasms. The throat spasms want to come back. Now, do you know why I have throat spasms?
Is it something to do with acid reflux?
Yeah, who the hell knows why I have throat spasms? The point is that my throat.
So
is
you were really asking me, like thinking maybe I could solve
like
the
maybe
mystery.
you, like Dr. Ted, could help me out. And I know now the listener, the two viewers that we have, they'll be like, "Oh, well, we know what the problem is because you scream at the computer all the time. That's where you get your throat problems from." But I can feel the throat spasms coming back. Part of it is that when I get a cold or flu, I have trouble with my CPAP machine, and the doctor says I'm overweight. Ted, you notice I've been gaining weight, so don't
I didn't want to say anything.
Do you ever watch the show Modern Family?
No, not really. I've heard of it.
There's a cute girl on my Modern Family. I don't remember her name, but I thought she was pregnant because they were showing her at certain angles and stuff. And then I Googled it, and there was actually an article that said, "Please don't ask me if I'm pregnant. I'm having personal issues." So, that's going to be number one. Please do not ask if I am pregnant. I am having personal issues with my throat. Like I said, in here, in the sinuses and in my throat, it's like the little, the forces of evil are attacking the forces of good. And they're very angry with each other. So I told Ted I'm not sick, because technically I'm not, and I don't know what the hell the spasms are going to do next. So hopefully
have they started, or are you anticipating that?
No, twice I had very mild spasms. Very mild, like so mild I don't even need to talk about them. But once they start, then I'll fall on the floor and hope, we relax. That'll be great times. Bye, everybody. And then I drink some caffeine, which makes the spasms worse. So you can look at the TV and say, "Ha, you get what you deserve," right? Talking about getting what people deserve. Where's my other sheet of paper? Right here. 2 weeks ago, one of the worst hurricanes in the history of North America came ashore in Texas. It was Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey was not that strong of a hurricane. Hurricane Harvey dumped 40-some inches of rain into Houston Metroplex. Me and Ted said over and over, no American city can withstand 40 inches of rain, whether it's Cleveland, Topeka, Sioux Falls, Atlanta, okay? I made some predictions, right? I predicted that Donald Trump would be called a racist the next day. That did not happen. Donald Trump was on the ball. Donald Trump did a good job.
Isn't that what I said?
And that's why we're starting off with hurricanes. Ted Coley said, the third worst storm in American history, Ted has faith in Donald Trump. And Ted Coley was exactly right. He went down there. I saw a few things.
What, I went down there?
No, I'm sorry. Donald Trump went down there, and he more or less took care of things. He didn't get in the way. There were a few people who said he was trying to do a photo op. But then I heard the troops were coming in, and they let the National Guard come out, and they were able to stay on top of the storm as much as humanly possible. Now, again, no American city is ready for 40 inches. It's going to be a long haul, and President Trump said it was going to be a long haul. But he did not butcher the response like Bush did at Katrina. He actually did a good job. And he didn't do a great job. He wasn't fantastic. But I did not read a whole bunch of articles about how Trump butchered it. I read articles where Trump, he could have done something slightly different, or he could have taken a left instead of a right.
I saw...
Oh, go ahead.
I kind of caught like the middle of somebody interviewing... Who was the guy for Bush? Was that Michael Brown?
I think so, yeah.
Was that his name?
I think so.
And he was saying, from what I could gather, that the reason Bush had so many problems was because the people in New Orleans and Louisiana, the governor and the mayor,
Right.
they didn't do their jobs.
Right.
So it was hard.
Yeah, so it was the dominoes. But Trump
he made it sound like that's the difference now, is that, yes, Trump is doing a good job, but he has people cooperating.
And you're exactly right. But Trump went to Houston and he said, listen, do you need anything? Then he went to the state and said, do you need anything? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He didn't let the dominoes fall and then go, when did this happen? So again, they did the best they could for a storm of that magnitude. Now, as soon as now I'm sure you'll hear a few stories here and there, but nobody's perfect. This is America. No one's perfect, right? Before Houston even dried out, you start to hear stories about Irma. Irma's starting to churn in the Atlantic. Irma is the strongest storm ever recorded in the history of the Atlantic Ocean. It came over and it took out Barbados. It took out Barbuda, not Barbados. Barbuda. It took out Antigua. It took out Richard Branson's island. Almost wiped it right off the map.
I'll tell you what.
I was rooting for the hurricane. You were rooting for Richard Branson. And then it was skimming across Cuba. And right now, as we speak, it is making landfall between Naples and Tampa Bay.
I think Cuba kind of slowed it down a bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still...
Well, thank you, Cuba.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Sorry about that, fans. So, there's a hurricane in the Atlantic. Now, people are trying to politicize the hurricane, okay? One of the funniest things I saw, right? There was a guy, and he voted for Hillary Clinton for president. He was one of the Hillary Clinton regional directors, right? As soon as Harvey plowed into Texas, he went on to Twitter, and he said, that's what you get, Texas, for voting for Trump, right? And then all of a sudden, he's in Naples, Florida, and the thing's charging in on him, and now he's getting all kinds of hate on Twitter. He's like, people are picking on me! My house is going to get blown down by Irma, and people are picking on me. So it's hysterical that people can take a natural event and then turn it into politics. Mm-hmm. Okay? I remember in 1979, Hurricane Frederick was coming up the coast, killed a ton of people. My best friend was David Hellickson at the time. Oh, I'm sorry. Hurricane David came first because it was the letter D. And then it killed a bunch of people. And then Frederick came right behind in the Gulf. It killed more people. And I remember telling David Hellickson, my best friend at the time, saying, David, I killed more people than you did. Okay? And I remember two powerful storms.
Is that why you were paying attention to those storms? Because the one had your name? Or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Frederick wiped out a ton of people, and I think it was 1979. And I remember being a kid, every year a hurricane, boom, boom, boom. So I hear a couple of people going, global warming, global warming. I'm like, well, what happened in the 30s when they used to come up 8 in a row? Mm. I remember they said Galveston got destroyed, then it got destroyed again 8 years later. So I'm not saying there's not global warming, but if you do your history, this is not uncommon. Some years are awesome and some are horrible. And then you get 10 quiet years in a row and everybody's like, oh, well, global warming means no more hurricanes. No, global warming means more hurricanes! And we have 2 friends in the hurricane path. My uncle's actually under where they said the eye is going to go today in Tampa.
I have cousins in Tampa.
Yeah, so he is in a heap of trouble, okay? But like I told Ted off the air, my uncle, he was in Vietnam, and, I think of this song by Alice in Chains, they come to kill the rooster. Well, he ain't going to die. The same with my uncle. He ain't going to, no hurricane's going to knock him out. Okay, I could see him on a pole, right? And something else about the hurricane. Think of the stupidest person you know. Put it in your head. Who's the stupidest person you know?
I'm not going to say.
Okay, but in your head you have that person, right? Facebook is getting swamped, and I guess somebody said...
Well, do you have somebody in mind, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, don't say their name, but what's the first letter of their?
Oh, GC.
No.
You know who I'm talking about. And there's a meme going around Facebook, and it says "shoot at the hurricane." What it does is it scares the hurricane, and it counters the force of the wind, right? Well, of course it's not real. It's comedy. It's facetious, right? Well, so many people are going out and shooting their guns at the hurricane that the sheriff of the county, like Dade County or one of the southern counties, had to come out, say, please do not shoot at the hurricane. What happens is the bullets get in the air and then the bullets circle around and they hit the houses, right? Please do not shoot at the hurricane. And so they actually had to come out and say, don't shoot at the hurricane.
So the bullet gets caught up in the rotation?
Yeah, and then it, boom. People
Wow.
are reporting gunshots because they think they don't understand that it's humor. And so that's why I'm like, oh my God, what kind of world do we... And that's why, we're starting talking about hurricanes, but it's like, maybe there should be more hurricanes. We're going to have a hurricane through Ohio, a hurricane through New Jersey, a hurricane through North Carolina. We need to thin the herd a little bit. And just like the guy in Florida, who's like, oh, that's what Trump voters get. Well, guess what? You're next, dummy. Hurricanes are nature. And granted, global warming may have exacerbated it, but this is not the time or place to say, global warming, global warming. At some point, there's nothing you can do. Take shelter, do the best you can, right? And don't shoot at the hurricane. Don't take your gun and shoot at the hurricane. And you would never think that you'd have to say that. Imagine you're the sheriff of this county and you're hearing that people are shooting at the hurricane. You gotta be reading it like this, like, are people really this dumb? Right? And, so anyhow, so my uncle's in Tampa, he's gonna be fine. Dave, we used to work with, we won't say his last name because there's a bunch of Daves. Dave is in the hurricane, he'll be fine because he's by Orlando, right? And professional dart player Gary Mawson. You remember Gary Mawson? Mm-hmm. Gary Mawson is at a dart tournament in Los Angeles, so wherever he lives, he will be okay too. Now, why do we follow professional dart player Gary Mawson?
Because he's awesome. He's awesome, Mawson.
Yes, because he's awesome. It was funny because Awesome was looking for he was looking for songs to get hyped up while he was boarding up his house for the hurricane. And I thought it was funny, right?
Did you see his house?
I just saw a picture of it. It looked like your house or my house. It did not look like a professional dart player's house. Yeah. Actually, it did look like a professional dart player's house. Because it looked like your house or my house. But the point is that he's going to be fine. Even if his house is wiped out, he'll be fine. He's playing darts. He can... Gary Mawson can spend the next 20 years in a pub playing darts. He'd probably be happy. You know what I mean? He just needs the money to, keep moving. So, but yeah, so if you want, look on Facebook, look for Gary Mawson. He's a great dart player. You can friend him. He'll be your friend. He's got a lot more friends than us. Right? And he is I think he might be going in the Darts Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah. Do you think we're going to go in the Webcasting Hall of Fame for our little beacon of speech thing here?
Nah, it doesn't look like it right now.
No, it doesn't. But if...
now, where is the Dart Hall of Fame?
Oh, I don't know. You don't think St. John or St. George is going to look over and get us into the Webcasting Hall of Fame? So anyhow, earlier this week, Rush Limbaugh said that the media doesn't have anything to talk about except for hurricanes. And he said hurricanes, especially Al Roker, overhypes hurricanes.
Al Joker.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
He says they overhyped hurricanes. He said that like on a Monday. What happened 2 days later?
What happened 2 days later?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Rush Limbaugh jumped on his private jet and got the hell out of Florida. Basically, he was saying people were scaring him. And I'm not saying the media doesn't scare people, but his whole point was you don't have to evacuate the whole state. You only have to evacuate coastal areas, and you're scaring a lot of people who don't know any better. Well, but it's a bad look. It's a bad look to call out the media and then do the exact opposite of what they say. You know what I mean? Like, well, holy cow, I don't want my private jet to get knocked over. I better get the hell out of Dodge.
But did you actually listen to Rush Limbaugh, or are you going by what other people?
Oh no,
said
I'm going
he
by
said?
the thing because no one Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh has been in Florida for so long. I have heard him say, I like to think of myself as an amateur meteorologist. And he goes, I follow these storms, and I think this storm is going to go north, and I think this storm is going to go south. This storm is going to... So he always talks about he's as smart as the meteorologists. Right? So he could be calling out Al Roker just for Al Roker pushing a global warming agenda. But it's bad optics. You know what I mean? You can't call out Al Roker and then evacuate right after. It's like my uncle. It'd be like if my uncle came out and said, you know what, Al Roker is he's just trying to scare people, and then he took off. No, my uncle put his money where his mouth is. He says, you know what, I think I'll be all right. I'm going to tough it out up on the thing. But the problem I'm worried about is he's on a canal on the interior of Tampa. So...
What, your uncle?
Yeah. Because he's not on the Gulf of Mexico, but, they don't have a road. They have a road to their house, and in their backyard is a set of canals. Set of canals takes you out to the Gulf. So, if there's a storm surge
Does
from
he
the Gulf...
actually live in Tampa, or is it a suburb?
It's a suburb of Tampa.
What's the name of it?
I don't know. He told me and I forgot. Because he flips houses.
Oh, that's what he does?
Yeah, so... Well, he's retired. He technically doesn't do anything. He's retired. But what'll happen is he'll have a house... And then he'll live in it for 2 or 3 years, fix it up, make it beautiful, and then he'll sell it for a profit. Then he'll get another house, and then he'll live in it for 2 or 3 years, fix it up, and then flip it for a profit. But he's not like the guys on TV who flip it in 20 days.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Who are like, oh, we're just going to paint it and then try and sell it for 20 grand more. My uncle tries to live in it and fix it and make it. He actually tries to make a better house. You see what I'm saying?
So he's fixing it while he's living in it.
He's fixing it while he's living in it, right? So he doesn't take a $10,000 house, that's gutted, and then fix it up to be a $200,000 house. He takes a nice house, fixes it up to be a really nice house. You know what I'm saying? Because he doesn't want to live in a crappy house, and in that way he can move at his own pace and stuff.
So he does all the work himself.
Yes. Yes, because he's not like me. He's very clever, and he's like, oh, well, Fred, if you got a weekend, just go and redo your roof. And so, oh, okay, I'll just redo my roof. He's like, oh, well, but he doesn't have that many hobbies. His hobby is fixing up houses. You know what I mean? And so, you have hobbies, I have hobbies. Is your hobby fixing up the house?
It should be.
But so that's what he likes. Everybody likes what they like. But, so, one of the things I want to talk about was Necker Island. Necker Island is where Richard Branson lives. And he lived. Again, I have respect for Richard Branson because he put his money where his mouth is.
Does he flip islands?
He probably does. But Richard Branson heard the Irma was coming. Flew down, went in the basement of a tiny island, and says, do your worst. And he lived to tell it. Wiped out his house, he still lived to tell it. And they said it was like a concrete bunker. Ted Coley, you have a house that's worth $5 million, hypothetically, on an island in the Virgin Islands. They said, Irma is coming. And you have 5 houses across the world. Do you fly into the mouth of the hurricane to stay in your house?
No.
No, I don't either.
Because what's going to happen to the house from the hurricane is going to happen whether I'm there or not.
Right.
So all I'm doing is putting my life in jeopardy. I'm not going to be able to stop anything while I'm there.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
So why not wait till it passes, then fly there and see what happened?
Right. And I agree. Now, the only other thing I could think of, and this is going to throw you off, Richard Branson was afraid for his staff. Right? Because I guess he has a full-time staff that works the island. So, if you had a full-time staff, okay, at your house on a Caribbean island, okay? And your name was Steve. Would you fly to that island for solidarity with your crew? Not Ted, but Steve.
No.
Steve is my former boss, so we're just busting on his balls a little bit, so I have some fun. But, so Hurricane Irma's churning up Florida. People are going to die because they're already talking about people firing gunshots at the hurricane. I read an article, there's a guy who wants to be a YouTube star, kind of like us, right? He says he's going to put on a helmet, protective gear, and he's going to tie himself to a post. And then he's going to record it and then put it on YouTube. Okay? You think that guy's going to live? Okay? There's too many people. I just saw a video this morning of a guy wind sailing. Okay? He's got the wing sail up here, and he's on the, or surf sailing or sail surfing, whatever the hell it's called. And he's just going crazy, and he's going and going. He's going for like 2 minutes, okay? Saw another guy. He's standing at the pier. You got 20 feet waves. So he's like, I'm going to take a selfie. And then a wave comes, knocks him down. And his friend's like, ah! Okay, that guy's probably going to be dead. Okay? There's too many stupid Floridians who are going to die like that. Now, I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for the old people who, grandpa built the house 80 years ago. You know what I mean? And I'm never leaving my house ever, Joey bought me, he built it, and then I lived here, and then all over there. And then she's floating in the lagoon, okay? The people like that I feel bad for, okay? I don't feel bad for the guy parasailing. But, again, it goes back to the natural selection. Every state should have a storm, right? That way you don't have idiots like the guy in Naples who said, oh, that's why the hurricane hit Texas. Well, guess what? You get a hurricane, you get a hurricane. In the winter, me and you are going to get a blizzard, right? We get a blizzard, see who lives through it, and natural selection thinning the herd, right?
So that guy lives in Naples?
Yeah, the guy lives in Naples.
That's hilarious because that's where it's going to hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Afterwards, he's like, I'm getting all this hate. I got to worry about this hurricane, and all you guys do is say mean things about me.
It'd be so funny if the hurricane just followed him as he was moving.
He's driving down the road, the hurricane's following him, zigzagging. But yeah, so it's like hurricane season, right? And don't get me wrong, this is a bad hurricane season. But you remember when me and you were kids, right? It was 1979. They said it was the worst winter on record, right? We had a blizzard, and then we had like a mini blizzard a month later. And then the next year, they said was like the second worst winter storm in history, right? You remember a blizzard of 79?
Well, it was probably 78.
Well, but that's the thing. It was 78 and then 79. So I might have the years reversed, but 2 years it was really bad. It's the same thing with hurricane seasons. You get bad ones, you get good ones. Now, if you get superstorms like Irma 5 years in a row, bang, 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 well, then you could say global warming, what are we going to do? You probably still can't do anything about it. You're still probably screwed. You got to get ready for it. But now's not the time to say global warming, global warming. No, you got to get ready. And like I said, some people are good survivalists, like my uncle, and some people are not good survivalists, like Gary Mawson. That's why I had to go. But he's in LA. He's fine. We can tease him because he's not there, right? And if he watches this, he'd be like, oh, Fred and Ted, they always sucked anyhow, right? They never played darts. You like Gary Mawson. And I think he's all right. I can never get past him playing darts for a living. And like I said, part of it is me being jealous. I'm jealous that he's doing what he loves for his...
I'm just thinking of that video that you showed me of him actually playing.
Oh, yeah. Him playing, next guy walks up, people are watching. But you notice they're not like hardcore watching. They're like watching and gambling at the same time, watching and drinking. They're not really like, oh my God, look at Gary. He used the sidearm throw. Right? That never happened.
Did you ever play darts?
No. When I was a kid, I ate sugar, okay, like it was going out of style. And when I was a young man, my hands were like this all the time. Okay, I don't have the sugar intake I used to. My hands aren't as shaky as they used to be. See, I'm holding them up. But when I was a kid, my hands shook constantly. And when I say a kid, they shook constantly till I was about 40. Okay, so that there was no darts for me. Nothing. Everything I was good at had to do with running or kicking or moving my hand. Anything that had to do with holding still my hand, like, any working around the house, screwdrivers or anything. I remember holding screwdrivers like this. And
So you wouldn't be any good at being like a watchmaker.
oh no, I could never make a watch. No, couldn't be a guitarist. The guitarist for Anthrax, right?
Brain
was
surgeon.
a watch. Yeah, brain surgeon's out. Like my brother-in-law, the brain surgeon. He's probably one of the people watching this going, I don't think Fred's good at anything. But yeah, I could not be
even this.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's fine, because I deserve it, because nobody's watching. Like I said, I keep telling Ted, we got to take the next step, okay? And Ted keeps thinking, The next step is into the grave. My throat closes up, and, that's funny, because if I die, my throat closes up, and then I pass out, you inherit Beacon of Speech, okay? So
That's in your will?
Yeah, have you been paying attention? Are you ready to run the computer? So hurricanes are on our mind today, which reminds me, okay, I started to talk to you about this, and we never finished it, okay? Ted Coley, we were talking about gas prices going up, right? Me and you, because Houston was devastated, and they're not getting the gas out to the rest of the nation. Gas prices have shot right up, right? Is that true?
Yeah, have they fixed that yet, or?
Oh, no, they're still going up. I noticed when I gassed up today that it was so high. So, so anyhow, gas prices are high, and Ted said if we ran out of gas, okay, the first 2 days would be like, oh, you're my friend, you're my brother, we'll be okay, we'll share gas. And then we'll just keep going. And then after, what would you say, 2 weeks?
After a week.
Ted said after 1 week, it would be like Walking Dead. Everybody afraid of yourself and you're shooting your neighbor. I said Ted was absolutely correct. Okay, and the reason I bring this up is because me and him were joking. We weren't even doing this as a bit, right? We were laughing about it. The very same day, I read an article. Let me make sure I get the right one. It was on the Sun UK, right? And they ask every Nobel laureate in history who's still alive, what do you think the greatest threat to civilization is? Do you think the apocalypse will come within the next 200 years? And over half of them said the apocalypse will come within the next 200 years. And this is why. Okay? Now, Ted Coley, you won a Nobel Prize. You won a Nobel Prize in economics. You said that if you work at a company and you keep losing customers for 10 years straight, you have to get rid of people. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are a Nobel laureate for noticing that. A Nobel Prize in economics. How do you think the world will end? What type of threat? Now, I'll throw an example out, okay? Aliens come down, wipe out the human race. How many Nobel Prize winners said that?
I'll say none.
You are correct. Okay, you're exactly right. What do you think was the number one reason the world would end according to the Nobel Prize winners?
And
again, this isn't me, you. These are the smartest guys in the room.
Fuel shortage.
Nope, but you are close. Okay? Population rise. And it's like, well, population rise. And they said that we have 9 billion people.
9 billion.
They said...
Is it that much now?
I think so. Maybe it's 8. No matter what it is, in 100 years, they think that could double to 15. And not in America, not in Russia, all in sub-Sahara desert. And then global warming comes and then all those people pour in the United States and Russia. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, 1/3 of the Nobel Prize winners said it was going to be population rise. And they said what the population rise will do is it'll be so many people that the Earth cannot support 15 billion people, and then it'll break out in wars and famine and stuff. Okay? So, do you agree with that?
I guess that's a possibility, but I don't think that. I mean, they've been saying that for what, at least 40, 50 years.
Yeah. So I don't know if I agree with that. Number 2 is nuclear war. I don't think I agree with that. When I was younger, I was scared to death of nuclear war. And then I realized that the US and Russia have set off 1,000 nuclear weapons since they started testing, right? So even if we went to war with Russia today and they dropped 50 nuclear weapons on us, we drop 50 on them, they drop 50 on us, right? I still think that South America, Australia, you would still have life on Earth. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't be that bad. Because they've been testing nuclear weapons. We've already been inundated with nuclear weapons. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I agree with that. Now, when I was younger, I would have agreed with that.
Okay, if I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I'm going to try to predict what you think will. This is what will end the world.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into your head. I think you probably think it'll be like some kind of pandemic or something.
Yes, very good. And that's exactly where we're going. 10% of Nobel laureates say that the next pandemic, that pandemics come in cycles, right? Everything on Earth is in cycles. Hot and cold, rising seas, dropping seas, extinction level events. Everything comes in cycles. 10% of Nobel laureates say there's going to be a variation of something like the bird flu, and it is going to wipe out everything except for a handful of people, and those handful of people will not be able to restore society as we know it. You know, there will be a handful of people in, Papua New Guinea or something, right? And then they'll go back to living in the cave, right? Because there will be no Walmarts, no distribution chains, no, this, that, or the other. And I agree. And you are exactly right. Now, the next ones are kind of stupid, so we're going to run through them quickly. Because I don't know if I agree with nuclear war. I used to. And population rise, I think that's feasible. But I also think that science can stay ahead of the curve on that. You see what I'm saying? Like, they can make new strains of stuff where they can, like wheat. They can make new strains of wheat where you can double the production of wheat. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Number 4 was vague. It was loss of humanity. You don't care about your brother or sister. Well, I think
that's
we're already there. Number 5, and this shows that a bunch of Nobel laureates are a bunch of left-wing pinkos. Okay, 5% said Donald Trump types being elected. Okay, and again, I don't like Donald Trump, but the end of the world is not going to come because of Donald Trump. Okay. Number 6, I kind of believe in, is AI, where what is that movie? With Schwarzenegger.
Total Recall?
No, the Terminator. Yeah. Where the machines gain consciousness and they're like, we don't need humans, wipe them out, and then that. Number 7. Another left-wing thing, well, inequality will end the earth. Well, how's inequality end the earth? Well, the poor people attack the rich. There'll be so many poor people there and so few rich people, but at some point the rich people just have to pay somebody to protect them, and I don't think the inequality will ever be so big that the poor could ever overwhelm the rich. Does that make sense? Number 8 is fundamentalism. They think that ISIS and ISIS-like philosophies are going to gain hold. And I don't know if I agree with that. Which puts us into number 9, fundamentalism. There'll be a mass extinction level event, and it'll usher us into a new dark ages where science is evil. Okay, I don't know if I believe in that. Number 10. This one is... If I had to rank them, this would probably be 3rd. Okay, I would say pandemic, AI, and number 10 would be your three biggest things. Number 10 is drugs. They said the drugs are so powerful, so virulent. Opioids, heroin, poppy, no matter what you want to call them. They said there's going to be a drug that comes along. So, and this is only a handful of Nobel laureates, but the high is so awesome that you're automatically addicted, and it's going to be better than sex and the highest high you ever had all combined. You're going to take that drug, be hooked, and everybody's going to take it, and they're all going to wipe out a whole generation of people, everybody who works, basically 18 to 65. And then that way there's nobody take care of the old people, nobody take care of the young people. Drugs wipes everything out, and it's the highest of the highs. And I'm like, I could feasibly see that, because we're getting close to that in some parts of the United States. People know heroin's bad, and they're like, oh, they're going to take heroin.
You said that would be like your number 3?
Yeah, that would be like my 3. So I think 1 would be pandemic, which you were 100% right. 2 would be AI, and then 3 would be the drugs.
So a fuel disruption is not on there?
No.
I'm telling you.
But I would put fuel disruption in the top 5. Okay? Because in my head, okay, and you could disagree with me. Let's say the fuel disruption happened tomorrow. Okay? Fuel disruption happens tomorrow. I think that we would be screwed. I think it'd be Walking Dead. Okay? Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
It would be Walking Dead tomorrow. And I think we'd be screwed. But I think we have enough oil in the ground where some scientists would be like, you know what, we only have 5 years worth of oil. Okay? Then all of a sudden, the Americans and the Russians are like, what are we going to do about this no oil problem? We are going to come up with a solution. And I think they can come up with a solution if there's no oil. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And if they have 5 to 10 years warning. Because right now, they don't want to have a solution, okay? How many times have you heard about the electric car? You've probably been hearing about that since you were a kid, right? The reason that the electric car doesn't exist now isn't because they can't make the electric car. It's because they can't make it feasible. They can't make it cheaper than what you can run a car for gas, okay? Now, if all of a sudden we had no oil or gas, like you said, Thunderdome, I'm killing Ted on the air, and then these people are going to send me gas in the mail. Right? But if they have 5 to 10 years, I think they can bypass that. Now, you do not have faith in humanity that could happen.
You were saying that I don't?
Yes. Would you say that's true?
I don't believe that they could bypass it.
You don't think that in 5 or 10 years they could have electric cars for everybody? If they knew they were running out of gas?
No, I think they could.
Right. But I think right now they just don't want to. Yeah. They're like, why would we want to? We got all this cheap gas. All you do is, you don't have to do anything. You just pull it out of the ground. Right? Do you want to add anything to the list?
Do I want to add anything to the list? No, if I think of something, we'll go back to that.
One idiot Nobel laureate, and again, I use the term idiot relatively, right? He said that the world, it was just one. He said the world is going to end because of social media, because of Twitter, Facebook. He said what's going to happen is everybody's going to be on their screens. And the whole world is going to fall apart because nobody's going to be talking to each other, nobody's going to work, nobody's going to go to the bathroom. I've already heard 2 or 3 stories of people dying in these internet cafes, like in China and Malaysia and stuff, where they're on the computer for 36 straight hours, don't go to the bathroom, don't eat or drink, and they just stare at the screen for 36 straight hours because they have nothing else to do. They live in the virtual world, and then, they turn off the screen and they're like
hypnotized.
Yeah, and they die, and it's not unheard of. And I wish, if we were talking about it today, I wish I would have read about the syndrome. But again, if you're living in Asia and you're with 200 billion other people, you know nothing's going to work for you. You know, I always talk about being afraid of the Chinese on Beacon of Speech, right? I read something that China is going to have a new problem. They have 1.3 billion people, right? And China is the socialist ideal, right? If you're a communist, right? Well, they said one of the things they're running into is now that there's no wars and now people are living longer, right? And they're eating healthier, even in China. In the next couple of years, there's going to be 300,000 to 400,000 retired Chinese. And they said it's going to put such a strain on their infrastructure that they're going to have to come up with some new solutions. What do you think the new solutions in China are going to be for too many old people? Okay? Just between you and me.
I honestly think that we're going to run into the same problem.
Oh, yes. Yes. But China's problem is the sheer numbers of them. You see what I'm saying? Like, the whole pretend like the whole population of the United States was over 65. That's what China's going to have. And it's like, oh. And, you know, I always talk about how big China is. They can march an army into here. But they got their own problems. And it's just like my uncle always says, different uncle. He always said, you know, they do work with China. And they said, you don't understand. For every Chinese person who's middle class like me and you, there's 3 who live in abject poverty. And you only hear about the ones that are doing good. You don't hear about the other ones that nobody takes care of and are dying in the streets. Ted, do you think we're going to win a Nobel Prize?
Us?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Okay. We are Beacon of Speech. We talk about free speech on this thing, on this webcast, whatever the hell we do. There were a few alarming attacks on free speech in the last 2 weeks. Would you like to hear about them?
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley! Do you remember University of Berkeley in California? They were supposed to have a right-wing speaker. Not Hitler, not Mussolini, a right-winger. He was supposed to come to their campus and then there were riots, right?
Was that Yiannopoulos or?
Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever his name was, okay?
That was a while ago.
Yes. Well, he wants to go back, right? And I got to make sure I have it right. Not the dean of Berkeley, but the mayor of Berkeley says we can't have riots in our city, okay? So we're going to have to stop right-wing speakers from coming to our campus to prevent riots, okay? Now, don't you think that's troubling? Because now all of a sudden, all you have to say is, that guy is going to cause a riot. And if you're on the left, all you have to say is the guy on the right's going to cause a riot. If you're on the right, all you have to do is say the guy on the left is going to cause a riot. And it is especially troubling because Berkeley is supposed to be the free speech haven, which shows that it's not. You can't... Now, again, me and you talked about this before. You can't let Hitler come up there and say, kill the Jews, you know, the whites are superior. You can't have that, okay? But you can't prevent right-wing speakers based on they might cause a riot. You can't say Rush Limbaugh can't come here. You can't say Sean Hannity can't come here. Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever.
Yeah, because then anytime somebody wants to come there and say something that you disagree with, all you got to do is threaten a riot. And
Right. And again, say it was Cleveland State University, just hypothetically. Well, who cares? It's Cleveland State. That's why when the terrorists attack things, like they attack Paris, they attack New York City, they attack symbolic things. It's the same thing with Berkeley. Berkeley is symbolic for free speech. That's why they're the last people who can do this. Okay? And I'm like, well, that's troubling. And of course, I read that in The Blaze. And The Blaze laid off a bunch of people in the last couple of weeks because they cannot... Because their business model is not holding up.
that's Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck came out and he said, I'm sorry, the hardest thing I ever had to do is lay these
recently?
people off within the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. He says, we got to recommit our message, redo this. This is me talking out loud. I don't know this for a fact. there are places like InfoWars and Breitbart and far right-wing places that are growing like crazy, okay? I like to think that the Blaze is not as far right as those other places, and I think that I think the Blaze is taking it on the chin for not being as hard as those other guys. You see what I'm saying? And I could be wrong. Why do you think the Blaze had to lay people off? You listen to Glenn Beck sometimes.
Yeah. Why do I think?
Yeah.
I kind of think that people are getting tired of talk. There's just too much of it.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't be saying that. So.
Oh no! We're down, Ted! We're down! I can't. We're next.
There's
we
too
got,
much.
We got less viewers.
We got less than zero. No, there's too much analysis of everything.
Yeah, there's not enough doing, and it's like you go from one web page.
You know how you were saying everything is a cycle?
Right.
This cycle is starting to die out.
Right. And this is what I'm talking about. You have radio stations, media growing everywhere. Netflix, Hulu, over-the-air stations, radio stations, YouTube. At some point, you don't have enough content for your outlets. You see what I'm saying? And I'm telling you.
Also, the market is, I think, flooded.
Right. So if you're talking, you have to say something different. Well, even morons that are saying something different are getting a platform because they're connecting with the other morons. Okay? There is no, like, original content in the middle ground because that's what a lot of people are saying. Like, I read something, it was so idiotic, it almost made me bang my head on the wall. Okay? It said that 9/11, maybe there wasn't explosives in the first two towers, but they knew, and again, who's they? They wouldn't say. Okay, this conspiracy guy said, but they put explosives in all the buildings around the Twin Towers, right? And then it was going to be like, I'm trying to think of what that movie is, Fight Club. You know, you ram the planes, the two towers fall down, and then all the other little towers on the edge start blowing up. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, it's easy. One big tower falls on a little tower and it blows up. I mean, it's math 101. They're like, well, we ran a statistical analysis and the little tower said it would never fall down. You know what? I am so sick of these 9/11 people. I swear to God, I want to be popular just so I can have one on my show, so I can kick them off my show. And then the other free speech thing is...
Didn't we know a guy who was a 9/11 conspiracy guy?
Yes, we did. He was an idiot. Ted, I'm running out of gas. I might not make the hour. There's two more things I have to talk about. Okay? Number one, and these are all free speech things. We have free speech in America under the First Amendment. Right to free speech, right to assemble. Second Amendment is right to bear arms. I always say as soon as they come and take your guns, they come and take your speech. I firmly believe that. Okay? Now, is there an American Constitution in Germany?
Is there an American Constitution or just a Constitution?
Is there is the American Constitution the same in America as it is in Germany?
No.
No, the Germans have their own constitution. They do not have a right to free speech. Okay? What is, and I'm going to ask you, name the three things that are most important to Germans, Ted Coley.
Three things that are most important.
When you think of German people, what do you think of? Off the top of your head. There are no right or wrong answers. Think of Germans. Think
of Germans. I don't know.
Okay. When I think of Germans, I think of ethnic cleansing, and I think of beer, and...
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was afraid to say it. And I was just thinking of this the other day.
Uh-huh.
When I think of Germany now, I think of Nazis.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so I think of ethnic cleansing, I think of beer, and I think
And I'm sure that's not fair to them
oh no,
now.
but again,
But I'm being honest.
yeah, be honest.
That's what, if somebody's doing, free association.
Yeah. And the third thing I think of is soccer. Okay? Now, how much do Americans care about soccer?
Almost zero.
Zero. Okay? This week there's a huge controversy, which is testing free speech limits in Germany. Some soccer...
So one of the things that you think of with Germans is beer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oktoberfest, beer, the best beer in the world. The Americans, they do not make the beer, Personally, I think of Rammstein too, but you'll know who Rammstein is. I think a good industrial metal.
So in a way, it's like almost, what were the three things? Ethnic cleansing,
beer, soccer.
And all those things are related to like violence too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Everything's fighting.
There was a comedian, and I can't remember what it was. They said that French is the language of love, like je fleur, and they said German is the language of hate.
Yeah, everything they say sounds like
even their speech is
threatening.
Yes.
You know who said that? Conan O'Brien said.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's who you were talking about. It could have been more than one person, but Conan O'Brien said that.
Yeah. So, but the point of my story is, my long drawn out story, is Germany does not have the same threshold for freedom of speech. I guess this week they're printing up T-shirts for the 2018 World Cup in Russia, right? And it says on the front in German, it's got the Iron Cross, Nazi symbol, right? And it says, "We're here to finish the job," right? And it's all about the German national team going to Russia to play Russia. Well, guess what? The Russians do not like that. They are not amused by T-shirts that say we're coming to finish the job with an Iron Cross on it. They said it is testing the limits of free speech in Germany, right? I read this in RT. Yeah, I know, isn't that funny? I thought it was funny. I'm like, I would like to have one of those shirts just because I think it would be funny, but because the Iron Cross is on there.
Did you ever see the movie The Big Lebowski?
Yeah.
Remember John Goodman? I forget what the scene was about, but I just remember him saying, he goes, like I said, I don't know what led him to say this, but it was hilarious. He goes, "Those damn Germans, nothing ever changes."
Yeah, yes, that's exactly right. And so when I saw the T-shirt, I'm reading it in RT, and they're going crazy in Russia. They're like, they want to ban German hooligans. A German team has to come over. They're going to beat them on the field. It's just like poking the hornet's nest, right? And the Germans are like, "We are just having some fun with you Russians." Right? And that's why I'm like, I can't wait for this World Cup, because the English and the Russians already have been having trouble, right? The Russians are worried about English hooliganism. They're worried about terrorists. Now they're worried about German hooligans, right? And they're in a hornet's nest over in Russia with this new World Cup. It's like, you get what you deserve. That's going to be funny. You're going to want to watch the World Cup just for the riots, because I think they're going to have some fun at the Russian expenses.
Now, who's in it? It's Germany and Russia? Or is...
The way the World Cup runs is the host automatically gets a bid. So Russia is automatically in the World Cup because they're the host. Germany's going to be in the World Cup because they're awesome. They're great at soccer. Okay? The Russians are almost looking for an excuse to ban the Germans from coming. You know what I mean? So it's almost a little bit of gamesmanship. Oh, we're going to ban your fans because they're going to bring their Nazi stuff over. You see what I'm saying? So you don't know if they're playing it up more than it already is. This T-shirt company in Germany, like I said, they're smug little a-holes, right? They're like, "Oh no, we're just having some fun here. We are not trying to poke the bear," but they're trying to poke the bear. Okay? So, yeah, I figured you'd get a laugh out of that. So again, but let's pretend like we cared in America, right? It'd be like, America, doing stuff like that, about countries they invaded 100 years ago. They're going to do, we're going to finish the job in Italy or whatever. You know what I mean? Or we're going to get the stakes out for Mussolini's grandson's head or whatever. So, okay, now, are you ready for the most alarming thing that's going to upset you the most?
No.
The libertarian website that I read almost daily, it's called Reason.com. Okay, they say American liberties, including free speech, are under attack in America, and I firmly agree with that. Okay? Everybody on the left wants their rights, everybody on the right wants their rights, they don't want to hear what you have to say. Period. Okay? In Florida or Arizona, I don't remember which, there were two guys in their basement doing podcasting and writing on a blog, right? Does that sound familiar?
A little.
They had less than 24 followers on their site. But instead of talking about freedom of speech, which we talk about, and then we talk about other things like hurricanes and Trump and stuff.
Less than 24 followers.
Less than 24 followers. They got on theirs and they said, you know what? We have the most corrupt mayor in the state. And you know what he does? He gives all the favors to his brother-in-law who runs a construction company, right? And this isn't true. We're talking about the bloggers. I'm almost positive it was Florida, but it might have been Arizona. Think the South, okay? It was somewhere where you think of corrupt sheriffs. And they laid it all out on the line on the blog. This is what's going on in our city. This is what's going on. This is where the corruption is, right? 2 days later, after their blog was released, after they wrote it in written form, and they did a podcast of it, sheriff and all his deputies burst down their window, took all their equipment, burst down their door, took all their equipment, said that the bloggers were spreading hate speech throughout the city, and they needed to be shut down. All of a sudden, the ACLU comes to the blogger's site, but the bloggers, they took all our equipment. We are poor bloggers who make no money. We barely had enough money to put stuff together. So, remember how I told you nobody watched our last YouTube video? That is probably not the worst thing that could be happening. Because until we get some protections outside of me and you, I read this story and I was very alarmed. I wish I would have wrote down the city. I wrote down the link. Sheriff, I remember what happened. I remember the end of the story. I'm sorry. Sheriff settles over bloggers raid. So the ACLU said, we're going to take your case, right? And they had to settle and pay the bloggers back money. Okay, but because it was a closed settlement, you don't get to know how much it was. I forgot that's how it ended.
So the bloggers sued and won.
They sued and won, but they didn't have money laying around like us. The ACLU or some other group like that said, listen, they literally did nothing, and everything they said on their webcast or on their podcast was factually true.
Mm-hmm.
And they said basically what you were doing was harassing them. And they're like, and basically they went to I'm the sheriff, I can harass who I want, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, as soon as the sheriff said that, the city's like, okay, we'll settle. We'll just please don't sue us anymore, right? And like I said, I don't have a problem with our mayor. Do you have a problem with your mayor?
No, I know almost nothing about him.
Well, I know a little bit about our mayor, but I don't have a problem with him. I voted for him last time, so I'm not saying anything bad about our mayor. But the point is that a lot of people who do their blogs, they have freedom of speech, and what they want to talk about is their mayor, their councilman, their state representatives. Mayor Gillick.
Mayor Gilligan, what?
No, Gillick. Here's the deal. This is why I like Mayor Gillick, okay?
What's his first name?
I don't even know. He's an older guy.
It is a guy, right?
Yeah, it's a guy. He's an older guy. He's probably in his 60s. When I moved into North Ridgeville, as soon as you got off the turnpike, right?
Did it say welcome, Fred?
No, it was wooded, right? And it had a trailer park loaded with $10,000 trailers that made it look like you just pulled off the ramp in Alabama, right? It looked like trailer park ghetto, right? Well, he used eminent domain And he says, we're going to have a hospital outlet there, the Cleveland Clinic or UH. After they bulldozed it, and they didn't bulldoze the people, they just said, you have to go to another trailer park. You can't be at the end of the ramp on the trailer park. They built a nice new community college.
So they didn't take a bulldozer while the people were still
No, but they should have.
Push them.
Okay, because they probably were all meth addicts. Okay? But some people said Mayor Gillick overstepped his bounds. It's like, what are you talking about? Those people, they still live in trailers. They just don't live at the end of the highway ramp. Okay? Now, you can say, oh, well, Fred, you're not a true libertarian. Okay? But when you get off the ramp and you see basically people at the end of the ramp, doing meth, right? Mayor Gillick did a good job, and he's brought more business to North Ridgeville. Now, Mayor Gillick is not a perfect angel, okay? There is a website called scumbagged.com. They're also from North Ridgeville. I actually talked to the guy online very briefly, okay? And scumbag.com says Mayor Gillick is one of the most corrupt mayors in all of Northeast Ohio. And his blog is dedicated to all the corruption of Mayor Gillick and his family. Okay? Now, I do not have the same evidence of scumbag.com, and we can agree to disagree. Okay? But if you do some more research, I'm not sure that I'm on the right path with Mayor Gillick. Like I said, I voted for him. I liked him. I liked that they cleaned up the trailer park at the end, and I liked that they've been trying to bring business in the community. Your mayor built a giant shopping center on top of an oozing dump.
Well, not the current mayor. Not
the last mayor.
Yeah.
That last mayor, he should be in jail. What was the last mayor's name? Not the current mayor.
Longo.
Longo should be in jail. Okay?
Does that sound right? Thomas Longo?
I think so. Now, Longo, he should be in jail. Okay? Now, I don't know if he is or not, but he should be. But your mayor now, you're cool with. You don't have a problem with that.
As far as I know, Vic Kalova.
And I'm happy.
I think that's who it is.
And I'm happy that Mayor Gillick bulldozed the trailer park and put up a Lorraine Community College campus. So please do not raid my home. Please do not raid Ted's home. Does that alarm you, Ted?
What's that?
That happened in Florida or Arizona?
Yeah, it does.
Ted, my throat is just killing me. We got to end this early. Do you want to do a song of the day?
Do I want to do a song of the day?
Song of the day from Ted Coley.
Oh, let's see. Okay, No One Is to Blame by Howard Jones.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll dedicate to that all the hurricane victims. No, because all the idiot preachers, idiot preachers like Jim Baker, he's still around.
Is he really?
Yeah, he said that the hurricane is God's judgment. And
for what?
For our sinful ways. Just vague.
Oh, just in general?
Yeah. And I've heard a couple of other preachers saying it's time to pay the piper. Some poor nations are like, now the United States gets what we get. They get to know poverty. And it's like, you know what? No one's to blame. A hurricane's a hurricane. Mm-hmm. And like I said, if global warming is why it's stronger, that's fine. But like I said, I still remember Hurricane Frederick and David charging up.
The thing is, it's like I told my mom, hurricanes have probably been going on since literally the beginning of time.
Yeah.
It's only a problem because we're in the way.
Yes. And again,
if nobody was in these areas, nobody would care.
Right. It's the same thing in Bangladesh. Bangladesh gets 100 inches of rain, okay? And they can, because they're used to it. And then when they get 200 inches of rain, 100,000 people float out to sea because they're not used to 200 inches. You know what I mean? Americans and people of the world, they can solve certain problems, okay? But it's just like I say on the blog. Everything can be almost, remember it was like the third episode we ever did. We said for what was it? $10 trillion you could build a Death Star. But then there'd be no money for food, no money for anything. You can do anything at this point. If you wanted to build giant walls to keep 40 inches of rain from coming to Houston, you could drain it off, okay? But it would probably cost $1 trillion. And who's going to vote for $1 trillion to make for a 100-year event? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then once you build it in Houston, what happens if it misses Houston and goes back to New Orleans? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And today it's hitting Tampa, but they said a hurricane has not hit Tampa with hurricane strength winds in 100 years. So again, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Even if there's global warming, you can solve certain things. You know, my uncle, if he really thought that he was going to get hit by a hurricane, he'd just build giant stilts, you know. That's the American spirit. We can solve problems. But how much does problems cost? Are we going to spend $1 trillion to keep the hurricane so we can drain off the rain? I can't see that.
You know what's amazing? They say they're called cyclones in the Pacific.
In the Pacific, yeah.
And they say that those are generally stronger than hurricanes. Could you imagine?
A couple of them have hit 200 miles an hour.
You know, and another thing is, you haven't heard anybody talk about, like, Cuba probably got hit pretty bad, right?
Yeah, right.
And you haven't heard like anything about that. You know what I mean? It's all like, oh, now it's right on Cuba, but that's all you hear, and it's coming here. So it's all about us.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, you go back to Antigua. They said Antigua is wiped out. Like, it is destroyed. They said every house in Antigua was destroyed. Well, Antigua's only population, 20,000 people. Well, all 20,000 people, you know, it's not like America where everybody has social media. You know, a lot of those people are poor island people.
That's the thing. I think like I said, you know, and they had nothing to do with it, but I think if Cuba was not there, we would have been looking at a Category 5.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cuba did us a favor.
Yeah. But they didn't help us purposely. They say,
we'll
slow them down.
No. But if that island wasn't there, not to say that this isn't going to be bad, but it would have been, you know, quite a bit worse even.
Oh, yeah. All right. But I got to go or else I'm going to just have a coughing fit. This is Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Please do not sue us. We both like our mayors. I don't even know who the hell our chief of police is, so if he's corrupt, I have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Song of the day is known as A Plane by Howard Jones. Next week, we're hoping for Joe Kaufman in the prediction episode. Oh, did not